It's a Front National. And, you know, that he stands as a statesman for that, I think, whatever his other faults.
He's now in fragile health. His wife, Bernadette, dismissed reports that he's suffering from Alzheimer's disease, but he may find a court appearance arduous. The abuse of public funds charges spring from his time as mayor of Paris and salaries paid to so-called phantom employees at the town hall. The money was used as part of Chirac's drive for further power in the 1990s, at the end of his 18-year term as mayor.
Well, he finished his term as mayor of Paris in 1995, and after that he won 2 presidential elections in 1995 and in 2002. Now, the French public was very much aware of these very serious allegations against him of corruption. But it's a cultural problem in France. I think the French press is not strong enough. It didn't do a good job of holding him accountable.
A civil action is being settled by repayment of funds. Mr. Chirac lost his legal immunity against criminal charges after he retired. If found guilty, he could face a heavy fine and up to 10 years in prison. But in practice, he would be more likely to receive a small suspended sentence. Tim Friend, Al Jazeera, Paris.
In Bangladesh, Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus will be in court to hear if his sacking from the bank he founded is legal or not. The country's central bank dismissed Yunus last week, saying he was working in violation of the country's retirement laws. But his lawyers argue Grameen Bank has a special status, therefore those rules don't actually apply. Yunus, who is 70, has been an outspoken government critic, and in 2007 he attempted even to form his own political party. In Indonesia, the case of a prominent Muslim cleric will restart on Thursday. It comes after prosecutors rejected a statement from Abu Bakar Bashir's defence team. His supporters allege international involvement in the case. Bashir is accused of planning terrorism and funding a paramilitary training camp in Aceh. I'll take you back to Somalia now. We told you about it being 100 days since the transitional government was in place, and they're claiming some levels of success. We're joined by Abdul Karim Jama, who is the Minister of Information for the Transitional National Government. Thank you for your time, sir. How successful do you feel this government is now in the fight against Al-Shabaab?
I'm sorry, I'm not quite hearing you well.
OK, I'll try again. I know it's windy. How successful do you feel this government has been in the fight against Al-Shabaab?
Thank you. The government has just completed its first 100 days, and I'm glad to report that the success of the government's new attitude to governance and to reestablishing security, not only in Mogadishu but in many parts of Somalia, has been something that was welcome by the Somali public overwhelmingly. We just received a report about a polling that was done 2 times in a row just this week, which confirmed that over 88% of the people polled were supportive of the current government, wanted peace and security, and thought they were on the right track.
That's Abdul Karim Jama, the Minister of Information in Somalia, having a few technical problems there, I'm afraid. A few other stories to bring you. A violent eruption, spectacular though, it has to be said, at the Kilauea volcano in Hawaii. Look at these pictures. Lava spewed up to 20 metres in the air. There were also, as a result, 150 small earthquakes in the area. Now, this volcano has been erupting since 1983, which makes it one of the most active in the world. Let's bring you the headlines now on Al Jazeera at 1/2 the hour. Colonel Gaddafi in Libya staging a fight back as his forces push east, taking Bin Jawad and moving on, I should say, the oil port of Ras Lanuf. Zawiya, which isn't far from the capital Tripoli, is also under attack. But Gaddafi himself may be seeking dialogue. A former Prime Minister has appeared on state television urging opposition members join in the talks. Gaddafi himself there also making a brief appearance in Tripoli's Green Square overnight, televised on state TV. The African Union's joined the EU and the UN in sending fact-finders to Libya. Each day of fighting causing more death and injury, and diplomats are seeking, as they would, information about this humanitarian emergency. Rebels have renewed their calls for a no-fly zone to ground Gaddafi's air force. US Senator John Kerry says direct military intervention would be counterproductive. The unrest there causing new fears for the global economy. US crude oil has hit a 2.5-year high, rising above $106. We've also seen London's benchmark FTSE 100 index falling about 0.5% in early trade, though bouncing back up just in the last half hour or so. Those are your headlines on Al Jazeera. Inside Stories next.
Thousands of Egyptian protesters stormed the headquarters of the State Security Service and demand the organization be abolished. The agency is accused of widespread human rights abuses and torturing its own citizens. So why is the security apparatus so feared and hated? And what role could it play in the new post-revolution Egypt? This is Inside Story. Hello and welcome to the programme. I'm Darren Jordan. 3 weeks after President Hosni Mubarak's ousting, Egyptians are turning their anger towards his internal security apparatus, storming the agency's main headquarters and seizing documents to help build a case that the service was used as a tool of torture and abuse against ordinary Egyptians. The protesters are demanding the agency be dismantled and its leaders face justice. Aman Mohyeddin has more.
Outside the gates of the sprawling state security compound in Cairo, Egyptian soldiers stand guard. This fortified complex was home to the country's most notorious security apparatus. But in the new Egypt, even its ironclad doors were not enough to keep protesters from overtaking the compound on Saturday evening. Inside, protesters found documents, police records, underground rooms, and even a passageway that led to a secret living quarter they claimed was used by the powerful Minister of Interior, now standing trial. They also found bags of shredded documents. With the recent departure of the Mubarak-appointed Prime Minister Ahmed Shafiq, protesters feared that state security officials would destroy all evidence that could implicate them. After protesters stormed this massive state security compound behind me, Egypt's new prime minister asked anyone with incriminating evidence or documents to hand them over to the military so that they can be used in the prosecution of former regime officials. Documents like these obtained by Isra Abdel Fattah, who was detained by state security twice for her political activism, show how state security was spying on her, even hacking into her email accounts to find out which organizations she was involved in and who she was in regular contact with.
These records show they were extremely paranoid from us. Every piece of information that for us seemed insignificant would be significant for them. They were convinced that there must have been some international organization behind my activities.
That sense of paranoia led state security to act with impunity for years, many say. State security officials were often accused of corruption, extortion, and torturing activists and citizens alike.